Hi, Robert Chuckrow here. I'm going to talk about shoulder tightness, why it's a problem, what causes it, and how to eliminate it. So, a lot of moves in the Tai-Chi form require the arm to be horizontal or even higher, but horizontal is the hardest because the most leverage. And people have, when they do that, their shoulders are tight, they lift up, and when an arm moves, it moves with the body, as opposed to having play, which is needed. See, this is the play that should be in moves. It's in the moves. See? So I'm holding my arm up against the force of gravity. My arm weighs about 10 pounds, maybe plus or minus. That means that if I'm using contractive strength, there is a force in my muscles, a contractive strength in my muscles, which is jamming my joints, pulling them in, of not 10 pounds, but 150 pounds is more like it. And that comes from the way the muscles are arranged, where the tendons join the muscles, and the bones so close to the fulcrum, which is the joint. So that binds the joints tremendously. So when you lift your arm and you're using contractive force, there's huge amount of tension here. It tightens the shoulder and also tends you to lift the shoulder. So the solution that a lot of players resort to is letting the elbows just hang, letting the upper arm just hang. So there's no strength in this part needed to hold it. The shoulders are relaxed. Then the movements come from just the elbow and maybe a little bit of swiveling of the upper arm. That's not supposed to happen. That's not the way you deal with that. So what is the solution? The solution is not using any contractive tension. Well, people say, well, use the minimum. Well, the minimum would be 150 pounds. If you're using more, it's going to be more than that. So you can't go below 150 pounds. That's a lot. So the minimum is no good. You have to use a different kind of strength, and that's expansive strength, which has a name. It's called Neijin. And that involves a different kind of muscular action. So to use contractive strength, tightening the muscles, that, my idea, causes the brain to send electricity through the nerves to the units of contraction called sarcomeres that are in the muscles and cause the muscles to contract and the tendons to pull the bones. That's the way we do most of our movement, and rightly so, because it wouldn't be there if it weren't important to have. But in Tai-Chi, we don't want to do that. So the answer is now to do a different thing, to have a different kind of strength, which involves the mind, the intention, causing the brain to send electricity through the nerves, but not to the units of contraction, but to the water in the muscles and the surrounding tissues. By the way, muscles have 70% water, so there is a lot of it there. And by doing so, what we're doing is changing the state of the water from liquid, in this case, and the other states are solid, ice, and gas. None of those. It's a different state of water, which hasn't been really studied very much, but it has been studied. And it's more of a rubbery gel. The electricity turns into a rubbery gel, which expands and has a certain amount of resiliency and strength. And by doing that, I'm not using 150 pounds to lift this arm now. When I relax completely and replace it by expansive strength, now I'm using maybe 10 pounds, maybe a little more because I'm not 100% proficient, but it's not 150 pounds. And The goal is to learn expansive strength. Without that, a lot of what you do in Tai Chi is not going to be right. Thank you.